Welcome to Life List, a birding podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We are here again at Life List, a birding podcast, and this is a bit of a new one for us. There are not two, not three, but four of us on this podcast today. Big stuff. I've got Alvaro Jaramillo, Molly Brown, and our guest for today, Julie Zickefoose. And before we get going, I wanted to intro Julie a little bit. She is, I feel like, somebody that needs really no introduction. She's been doing bird work for a long time and is very well known nationwide, even outside of birding, to all sorts of folks that aren't necessarily birders, but just think birds are cool. Julie lives and works quietly on an 80-acre wildlife sanctuary in the back country of Whipple, Ohio. She's a prolific writer and painter and advising editor to BWD magazine. She's been blogging regularly since 2005. Her heavily illustrated books include Natural Gardening for Birds, Letters from Eden, The Bluebird Effect, Baby Birds, An Artist's Look into the Nest, and my personal favorite, Saving Jemima, Life and Love with a Hard Luck Jay. The intimate story of how an orphaned bird can save a soul is her newest book, and one of my favorite birds. Her primary motivator is beauty and the love of sharing. Welcome to the show, Julie. How are you doing today?
I am so thrilled since we have video capability, I'm so thrilled to see you guys again. All three of you. It's been way too long and just delighted to be here. Thank you.
Thanks for coming and talking to us, Julie. This is awesome. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've got a lot on the docket in a fairly short amount of time, it seems like, today. What have you been keeping up to of late? I know you said you've been working out in the yard a bunch. What's happening in Ohio?
Well, this morning I had to recharge my battery for my steel weed whacker 3 times. Each charge gives me 45 minutes of pure agony. And when I first got the thing about 2 years ago, I ran out the battery once and I said, I don't think I'm built for this. And this time I charged the sucker 3 times and just kept going. It's all about vegetation management right now. It's just about trying not to be covered by vines, if you sit down.
This is like an exercise routine, like you build up. Like next month, you'll be up to 5 charges and then 8 charges. And by the time you're like 10, you'll be like, just ready to tackle anything.
Yeah, it's kind of like couch to 5K, that little app.
Yeah, I see Facebook posts sometimes with like big bulldozery kind of machinery in the back, and I'm thinking, what is she up to? Just settle down.
I can actually hear Bill saying, "What the hell are you doing to our place?" He used to kind of like shed a tear every time I asked him to cut down a tree, because he was the chainsaw guy. And now that I have my own chainsaw, I don't have to ask anyone's permission. I just do it. Yeah.
It's just like angry chainsawing, like get all the frustrations out, and come back, and then write really peaceful stuff about birds, online after you've chainsawed for half an hour.
Yeah, I just got a comment on Facebook that was like, "It's amazing how such an intense person can write such soothing things." And I thought, wait a minute, am I intense? What? That made me laugh.
I do wonder if people see like an active person, somebody who's always busy, as being intense. Because I think a lot of people do have a lot of downtime. And I always feel like a lot of kind of birder types who are, especially the ones who do this professionally, are never have downtime. They're always doing something. They're picking, I'm going to do moss tonight. I'm going to do the moss thing, or I'm doing the gardens, or I'm doing this. It's like, and it seems intense, yet it's sort of like, what else would you do with your time? Is
Right.
probably what a lot of us think,
Yeah, exactly. There's always something to be done, and especially when you're maintaining 80 acres, and what boggles my mind is like how anybody has time to just sit down and read a book. I mean, who does that? The only the only time I read is when I have to. Like if I have to write a review or something, then I'll just like nail myself down to read it.
Yeah.
It takes me forever because like at the end of the day, I just fall asleep. My eyes just slam shut.
I'm great at buying books, less good at reading them, it seems like.
Gotcha. Stacking is another skill of mine.
I think I've listened to more audiobooks and definitely podcasts than I've read books this year. But now you can listen to a podcast or an audiobook while you're out working and doing stuff too, which now I have like the sound dampening AirPods. So if you're out like weed eating or something and you want to block your ears anyway, you might as well listen to a podcast while you're doing it.
Oh, there's a thought.
Multitasking,
yeah. While you're doing your therapeutic chainsawing, you can be, listening to.
You can be listening to a podcast about multitasking while you're multitasking.
It's very meta.
That's the world we're in now, like sort of.
Which I never want to do if I can hear birds, but if I'm doing something where I can't hear anyway, now I multitask.
That's exactly. The thing that blows my mind is like, why would you not want to listen to the ambient, bird song? Because that's like that's the news as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. So I tend not to listen to stuff. Unless, like if I'm doing the cleaning the kitchen or something like that, that's an awesome time to listen to a book on tape or a podcast or something like that.
I got a silly question for you, Julie. I know you go out for runs every so often, right? And I assume you're listening to all the birds.
Right.
Do you make an eBird list of your runs when you go, or do you just sort of, or if you do that kind of thing anyways, I don't even know, but like.
I have this little metal notebook that I can keep in my pocket that keeps the paper dry, and it's tiny, and I have a tiny little pen, and I make these meaningless handwritten lists of birds every day that I go out. And I say meaningless because I've got like sheaves of them, like clipped together with clothespins, and I don't know what I'm ever going to do with them. I do eBird, if I'm going somewhere that matters. But I haven't really made the transition to just being on my phone and eBirding all the time because I find it too distracting. I'd rather be looking up than looking down.
Yeah. No, it's interesting how I've often thought too, like I will make a little eBird list after I come home from my run, but then I don't know what to call it because you're not really birding, yet you're actually hearing a lot of stuff. But it's probably not equivalent to true birding.
Right. It's not like incidental. It's not an incidental list, but it's not necessarily, it's sort of between.
Yeah. So I'm going to argue they should get a running list, running protocol.
Yeah. Like a half-assing it list,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
Well, kind of like
birding.
My dedicated running binoculars are these pathetically battered Swarovski companions, these little things that I have rigged up with like Sculpey and rubber bands, so that they stay, the optical interpupillary distance stays exactly the same, right amount apart, and a really long strap so I can wear them bandolier style. And, that's analogous, I would say, to that's not really bird watching through great, binocs, but it gets you there,
Right. You've got what you need.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So the place there called Indigo Hill, right? Are you hearing some indigo buntings? What about other birds? What sounds are dominating the landscape there these days when you're out listening?
Well, it's really interesting because I keep these arrival lists. I keep these on my computer, and it's strange. It's like I've been waiting all season to hear the common yellowthroat that breeds here, and it got here yesterday, May 30th.
Wow.
The prairie warbler sang for the first time on May 30th, which has never happened before. They've bred here every year that I can remember. So there's some odd stuff afoot. I don't know if it has anything to do with the bulldozing. It might. To be clear, I've been bulldozing exotics, invasive exotics like autumn olive, Japanese honeysuckle, and multiflora rose.
No, big
And while
ones.
I realize that those hold some value for some birds, namely cardinals, they have to go. They absolutely have to go. So there has been a bit of habitat rearrangement, I would say. And so that could explain why some of my breeders aren't here. But in the woods, I've got, it sounds like 2 pairs of worm-eating warblers. I had a yellow-throated
Oh, wow.
warbler show up yesterday. Cerulean warbler has been singing all spring, but I can't. That's one that it's so important to know if it's actually breeding that I'm not going to say it is until I see real evidence. But Kentucky warbler, ovenbird is actively nesting in the orchard. Black and white warbler, redstart. Pine warbler is here this summer. The cuckoos just got in, yellow-bills. Blue jays, of course, have found one nest already. And it's off to a great start. I mean, I so love cataloging the denizens of this place and just like being involved in their lives. It does it for me.
That's really cool. As you're talking, I'm thinking, Julie, you're a bird expert. You're a person who's written about all sorts of aspects of bird life, rehabilitating birds. You've traveled all over the place looking for birds and so forth. You've been at this a long time. Yeah. And yet you're also, in the sort of lingo, a backyard bird watcher, right? And we often have this kind of thing in the birding world. We're like the backyard bird watcher, which I am too. I love the backyard, looking around and seeing what's going on.
Sure.
Is sort of lower. It's a lower tier, like the backyard, like there's nothing impressive that happens in the backyard. Is sort of what I'm thinking. A lot of birders think, you got to go chase rarities. You have to go do this. You have to go to Alaska, which are all great things, actually. I mean, I want to do it all. How do you kind of feel about that dichotomy, distinction, reality, or how do you see birding? Do you ever see that deal? What if somebody says, oh boy, I backyard bird watching, that's just for amateurs. What do you say to all that?
Well, I feel very entitled and sort of like an idiot for saying this, but if you have a backyard like mine, backyard bird watching is pretty damn awesome. Like I've got
if you got cerulean warblers.
Exactly. I've got Acadian flycatchers singing on the edge of my yard in the evening, like doing a night song. I've got blue-winged warblers, 2 pairs counter singing across the yard. So it's not really fair to ask me that question because I'm not talking about a postage stamp here. I've got lots of habitat and I've got birds that just feed my soul. I do think that there is a sort of, if you don't chase birds, if you don't get on a plane to go see birds, you're not really a birder. But I would so much rather catalog what is here and be deeply involved with them and intimate with them than go see a vagrant. It just like chasing vagrants just doesn't compute to me because I'm just boiling my own little kettle right here. And I learn so much this way, I just getting to know individual birds. So sort of I like to dive deep right where I am. I like to grow where I'm planted.
I think we've talked on the podcast some before. If you say like intense birding, the first thing I think most people think of is going out and doing a bunch of listing or chasing or trying to see as many species. But there's so much to be said for the intensity of birding one spot just day after day, or just putting in all those hours and seeing what's actually happening to individual birds or in a tree over time, or there's so many different ways to look at it. And I think that is just more and more appealing to me, to intensely bird in one spot and really see the full picture of what's happening there rather than just blazing a trail through as far as you can get.
Well, don't you think it's also kind of like the whole British concept of patch birding, and where, these amazing observations can come out of one spot visited again and again and again. And when you tie photography in with that and you take photos of the same scene again and again, and you get a sense of the phenology of the place, it's a pretty powerful thing. And I love it. And I'm glad that my temperament suits quarantine. I'm very grateful.
It's also, yeah, there's also like the patch sort of type birding, but there's also the Alexander Scutch kind of way to sort of see the world. Who, Scutch was a person who was living in Costa Rica, and he would go, and he had some land, and he would go around the back and catalog what was nesting, what was happening, and put it all down on books. And it's still some of the most amazing writing on tropical biology, yet it was basically his backyard. He had an awesome backyard like Julie does, but that's also the whole idea of cataloging long term and knowing things because you've seen them before, the year before and the year before that. There's super power to that. It's like, I wish, we all did a little bit more of that, even part-time, as a birders go, okay, I visit my patch, even if it's not your backyard, once a month, because I do that to see what's going on. It's a great way to learn.
It's really interesting that you invoked Scutch, because he was the writer I connected to most deeply with when I was in college and I was trying to learn as much as I could about neotropical birds. Scutch was the guy. And the only thing that I didn't like about his writings was the way he killed snakes. I was like,
yeah, that's right.
Because I love snakes, but Scutch would not tolerate them around his place. I get it, but man, Scutch's writings about mannequins and cotingas and just ordinary, yard birds in the tropics, and then visiting his farm was a high point for me after he died, unfortunately. But yeah, Scutch was a light for me and still is.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, you're like our Scutch.
That's right.
You're the Ohio Scutch.
The Ohio
Scutch of Ohio.
Seldom seen. Sleeping around in my gray clothing.
But the non-snake killing Scutch.
Yeah, and you've got snakes there too. I know. I've seen some pictures. You get some copperheads around there, right?
I was laughing at myself yesterday because there's this crack that the copperheads like to sleep in all day, and they aren't up yet. So I took that liberty to clean out the crack in the patio, which was full of old sycamore leaves and twigs and stuff. And I was like, well, they're not going to like to lie on this stuff. I got to get it down to the nice gravel. So I was reaching in there and pulling out the leaves and just hoping there wasn't a copperhead in there.
Oh my gosh.
But you got to clean the snake crack. That's part of the spring preparation.
making the beds for the copperheads. Yeah. That's pretty solid.
Yeah. I may pour a little sand in there just to make it nicer, because there's something so great about being able to have a place where you can guarantee lock on a copperhead. And, I've had people say, hey, I've never seen one. Can I come to your house and see it? And I'm like, yeah, I'll show you your life copperhead. And if you want to wait around, we'll get your whippoorwill too, Yeah.
That's awesome. So, Julie, once you have bulldozed this multiflora rose and this insidious Japanese honeysuckle, what's going to go in there? What have you got on tap for this space?
Well, what I've done is I've kind of done the perimeter of part of the property where there were just hedges of this stuff, and I don't have to do anything. All the stuff that was in the soil bank comes up. And like I've got milkweed coming up in the woods right now.
Oh, wow.
Like going, oh, light, air. Oh, this used to be a field. And I think to myself, how long have those roots been waiting beneath that soil, beneath those smothering hedges? And I have things like ragged fringed orchid coming up. I have perfoliate bellwort for the first time on the place. Golden ragwort. It's incredible what is waiting in the soil bank. But along with the clearing and the bulldozing comes a great responsibility to keep the multiflora from coming right back in. And so next spring, I will go and spot spray the tussocks of multiflora that are, coming back from the roots that didn't get grubbed out. So I don't have to plant anything. All the cool stuff is still there. It's just been waiting to be released.
That's cool. Yeah. I meant before we were recording, I mentioned I've been a city boy a long time. Kind of moved out to an area where I actually have some space to do some plants finally, and just put in some milkweed. And I actually purchased some goldenrod, and put in
I'll give you
and
some.
put in. I know some of my friends. Well, the funny thing is, like, I put in this. I'm envisioning this wall of goldenrod. I just want to, like, I love goldenrod. Always have loved goldenrod. When it goes to seed, the goldfinches love it. If you're lucky enough to get a big finch year, the red poles will come in and they'll get after the seeds and stuff too. And I just have such good memories of finches at goldenrod. And all the pollinators, love it too. So I went and bought some goldenrod, put in like a nice bunch of plants. And then I was like kind of looking around the yard the other day, and I was like, oh man, there's a whole bunch of goldenrod just shooting up here in this corner of the yard. And so I think it's coming. I'm gonna have that wall of goldenrod, just not quite where I thought it, but still, it's been so satisfying to get into this. It's like I'm obsessed with it now. I just go out and stare at my plants all the time. I know, Molly, you've been doing a bunch of this too.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat as Julie. I'm trying to maintain the wall of goldenrod that we have now. So we have 42 acres, and about almost half of that is field, and it's kind of solid goldenrod now. It hasn't really been maintained. It's old strip mine, and there's tons of it. So the goal that we're trying to hit is to have blooms more throughout the entire summer instead of just the late stuff that will be coming up with the goldenrod too. So we're starting to experiment with mowing and whatnot a little bit. We're getting ready to start building a house too. So we're not doing a ton to disrupt the field until the machinery that's through is out, because that brings in a lot of invasives and that type of thing too, which we don't have a lot of. We have some autumn olive and some multiflora rose, but it's really been pretty easy to maintain. We've barely had to use the chainsaw on it, which is really nice. So we want to keep that. So we're trying to be patient about disrupting too much until we have all that through. But yeah, it's exciting to see what our potential is in the field. And we've been doing a lot of soil testing, and we have a wetland area that's very wet. That's really fun to dream up what we're going to do with that. But what we've really had to wrap our head around with is that it does require active maintenance to do this. And we had to really think, okay, this isn't what was naturally here. It's been, 40 years or so since this was stripped and mined, but there are rocks that are like 15 feet tall in our field. So we know how much of the ground was taken out. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. They're nuts. They have trees growing on top of them. We've got like cherry tree patches on these huge boulders that are like many times bigger than our cars. But that was really tough to think at first, and not just taking out the invasives, but thinking through, okay, we might need to take out some of this that's here. Even though goldenrod is good, we need more than just the goldenrod, and, kind of figuring out what to do with our springs that are there and whatnot. So that was a little bit of a hump to get over, because it is hard to think about cutting down a tree. But we're past that. And I think now the possibilities are starting to open up, and that's been fun.
Yeah.
Well, one of the pretty cool things, I've had some prairie experts come out here and look at the place early on. Ohio Prairie Nursery, a guy named Bob Karras came out here, and he said, you should really start completely over, because this is all goldenrod. And I was like, what's wrong with goldenrod? Wait a minute.
Yeah.
What? People who deal in prairie and prairie seed see goldenrod as a thug, as something that one doesn't plant, that it just comes in and takes over. And the interesting workaround that I've got is I have this, I make these eagle's nests of cut brush. I call them eagle's nest. And you remember the mythical bird, the rock, R-O-K. Mine are actually rock nests. They're big enough to pick up an elephant. So these giant wads of brush and tree stumps and things like that. When I burn those, I get a giant divot of completely sterile soil with nothing in it. And that is awesome, because that's when you take your $600 worth of prairie seed and you throw that stuff down, and you get to see stuff come up unchallenged by goldenrod and other, natives that are going to cover it over. And that's fascinating. I have loved that. So I have a patch, an ovoid patch of just straight New England aster and showy goldenrod, which is a non-invasive goldenrod, and gray-headed coneflower coming up. And I got to say, it makes me want to just burn the whole thing down and start over when I see how good that is. So my answer to that is I just keep making these huge brush piles, and then when I burn them, I get to plant. So that's lots of fun.
That's awesome. It's funny how I do think, like, I remember seeing a presentation by some of the folks at American Bird Conservancy years ago. They were talking about golden-winged warbler conservation and how difficult it was to convince birders and supporters that they actually needed to cut down trees for conservation at times. Like, obviously, you don't want to go leveling forest, but at times, like, one of the best things you can do, and I see that around here, we have such big chunks of, I shouldn't say big chunks, but relative to this area, there's some big chunks of forest that where you do get tree gaps and little meadows, and those can be such good areas for increasing diversity and kind of breaking up what is otherwise sort of I don't want to say a monoculture because there's so many humans around in there, but there's just a lot of woodland and not necessarily a lot of tree gaps and meadows. And yeah, it's just funny, like, the ones that we do have require maintenance, like you're talking about. And people loved seeing them grow and grow and grow. And then, people come in to maintain them, cut down trees, burn, and people are like, oh my gosh, what happened here? This is a disaster. And you're like, no, this is actually really good. This is what we want. We need more space for these native plants to grow.
But you wonder, like if in the past, right, in the East, there are some signs that the East was a lot more patchy than people think.
Mm-hmm.
For example, brown-headed cowbirds. There's always a story that the brown-headed cowbirds moved from the mid section of the U.S. out towards the east. There's actually an eastern subspecies of brown-headed cowbird. They've always been there. But they were probably in these little patches that were created by fire, maybe by tornadoes, or perhaps they were actually maintained by big herds of elk, back in those days, and you think we have such a warped idea in some cases of what reverting to the natural actually means. And it's probably a lot more complicated and patchy and mosaic-y than just like, look at this pristine, huge old forest, so, yeah.
Well, getting back to the golden-winged warbler, I've been working the New River Birding and Nature Festival for 20 years. And we know there that unless you have a clear cut, you don't have golden-winged warblers. And clear cutting has really become a rather rare thing because selective cutting is what everybody does now, at least on the agricultural land around here. So it's really interesting to come into a recent clear cut and it's just growing up to saplings and you hear that song and you're like, oh, I get it. But, there are other forest birds like Kentucky warbler that also depend on clear cuts or heavy selective cuts to even hang in there because they need younger growth than a mature forest. So hooded warbler, I would submit, is also somewhat dependent on forestry for its presence in the Appalachian woodlands. And so I think a lot of people don't have a full understanding of just how much anthropogenic changes in the landscape mean to species of birds that they hold dear.
Yeah. And that's not to mention the impact that white-tailed deer have on changing the successional growth that's coming after that. And it's really easy to look at thinning or selective cutting and think that you're taking out the big trees and leaving space for the younger trees to come up. But what's happened in practice since that's been used in the last, 30, 40 years is that it's not younger trees that are coming up because things like deer are not allowing the understory to develop. It's the weaker trees of the same species. So you're ending up with less healthy forests that don't have those levels of understory that a forest would have had here 200 years ago.
Very interesting. Yeah. Let's not even talk about the fact that white-tailed deer eat eggs and nestlings. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's complicated, really complicated, and I think there are people I've talked to who have said we shouldn't manage the land at all. It's like let nature take its course, and that kind of doesn't work in today's world at this point. What you manage and how you manage it, and that's the science behind it, that's really worth discussing. But I don't think no management, at least where we live, where there's a lot of people,
Yeah.
I don't think that's
works. No, we've meddled with the landscape so much to this point that if we don't meddle a little bit more, then we'll lose a lot more than we've already lost.
Yeah.
So.
I'm also jealous at the size of your backyard. It's like I have this little postage stamp backyard. I'd have to make it to sound impressive. I'd have to like count it up in like millihectares or something. But the bird list has been good. Of steps has gone through here. Yet it's like acre. Gee, I don't even point.
I know you grow potatoes there, Alvaro.
That I can do.
Yeah.
But there's parts of that is it's so appealing to think like you can have an impact on a huge percentage of your property.
Yeah.
Really quickly, right. and see those kinds of like quick results. Yeah. I kind of have been thinking about like, does it actually feel easier to maintain 40 acres or half an acre? Because if there's 40 acres, if there's, a big chunk of it that we're not doing anything with right now, it feels okay. But if you have like a small property, then it seems like, I don't know. I mean, I had a half an acre spot before, and that kind of felt like more work because I felt like I had to touch every inch of it and just keep up with it a lot more.
That's kind of where I'm at. And I've got even less than that. But I'm just like, I'm inspecting every little corner of it, and I'm thinking about what I'm going to get rid of because to make room for this plant or this tree that I want. And yeah, that's, I don't know. I'm kind of focused small scale at the moment.
Yeah. We're kind of trying a lot of different things in little patches, and you don't quite have that liberty. You have to put all your eggs in at least closer to one basket.
Couple baskets, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one thing we wanted to touch on here for certain, Julie, is BWD Magazine, which is back, and we're really excited at all of us who have a history with the magazine and are big fans. Maybe you want to profile for folks where that's at, what's coming up.
Oh my gosh. When you talk about it, I feel like you're talking about my firstborn, It's just been such an emotional ride to revive the magazine and to be involved in this headlong race to get a July-August issue out to people. I just finished looking at the PDFs, and they are so beautiful that it was like Christmas morning opening each one. We have a lovely designer who works for Airstream Life, for Rich Lure, the publisher of Airstream Life. And Rich is now one of our co-publishers for BWD Magazine. And she is a very gifted person. So seeing these layouts and seeing, since we've gone full size, the photos given their due, and reproduced so that you can really, really see how crisp and sharp they are, it's just really, really makes me very, very happy. So I can't wait for that first issue to come out. I can't wait for people to get it in their hands and say, oh my gosh, I'm going to send this to my Aunt Sally. She would love this, because I think that what we're trying to do is build subscribership and concentrate solely on the magazine. None of the subsidiary side projects, no travel company, no booklets, no, watching backyard birds every other month. We're just narrowing it down to what really matters, and that's the magazine, and putting all of our effort into that. So it's been really amazing. A ton of work, absolute ton of work. The transition was rocky. getting the subscriber database was quite an adventure in gymnastics. To get it out of the ancient quick fill program that it was in, and get it into a form that could be exported and used. And that was Rich attacked that like a pit bull, and did not stop shaking it until he had it wrestled to the ground. So I'm just very, very thankful and thrilled to work with Jessica Vaughn, who is our editor.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
She is so lovely and so perceptive and so sensitive and also decisive. And those are some wonderful qualities to bring together in a person. And being able to work with her as an advising editor and say, well, here's how we used to do it. I don't know what you think. And she's like, well, what if we do it this way? So it's just been great. I'm just bubbling over about it. And of course we have Alvaro going to contribute some stories to us and whatever he feels like writing. We can't wait. We're going to want to hear from all of you guys.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like, to give people some background, as I've sort of seen some of that transition or sort of been involved in some of the discussions, like, BWD is what used to be called Birdwatchers Digest, right? And everybody called it BWD. So now it's becoming officially BWD. That is the name, right? It's not just a short form. But also, I think if any of you saw the old magazine, it was this little, kind of almost like Reader's Digest, if you ever saw that, small photos. So now it's full size, and that's a whole, really amazing step to me, because so much of how things have progressed in the birding world to me have been visual, right? I mean, the stories, the written word is still going to be the key to BWD articles. It always was. It was a magazine you could read cover to cover, unlike many other bird related things. But now there'll be photographs that you can really sort of enjoy and kind of
savor,
check out the visual, And especially for us busy people, we just look at the pictures.
And plenty of artwork too, I imagine. Yes, Julie?
Yeah.
Well, on the cover for sure. Right now, we have all photos on the inside, but one of my tasks that I'm charged with is sourcing the cover art. And that's a challenge that I'm leaping into, because when I really sat down and started writing down the contacts I have in the bird art world, they're pretty extensive, pretty far reaching, cover a lot of different styles. And my goal is to have the top drawer, excellent bird artists on our covers. I am a freak for accuracy. I'm a freak for true to lifeness. And so we're going to go in that direction where the birds will look like the birds, and they're going to be true. And I just can't wait. The September-October cover is going to be fabulous, and I'm not going to give it away, but I'm so excited about this young artist. So yeah. And I'm also, I'm leaning on people that I know who I sense can write, but may not have been published. When you read someone's Instagram post and it's very well put together and they're really touching on some deep things, I think, let's ask for an article from that person. So that's been a lot of fun too. Smoking out people who are maybe great photographers who also have a writing gift.
Finding voices.
Artists. Yeah, finding those voices, bringing them out, bringing them along. It feels like paying something forward, when people were kind to me when I was coming up and saying, hey, you can really write, that meant a lot to me. And to be able to turn around and do that for people is it's making my heart grow another room. It's really great.
I think if I remember right, I think my first published essay was in Birdwatchers Digest, and it was Bill Thompson found it, and he found something else I wrote, and we were talking a little bit, and I wrote this thing and I sent it to him, and he's like, yeah, we'll run with this. And I called it Campaign for the Seagull. And it was at the time they were talking about splitting American herring gull from the other herring gulls around the world. And I said, we need to rename the herring gull the seagull, so that now when people point to this herring gull and they say it's a seagull, they'll be right a pretty good chunk of the time.
I'm on board with that. We just have the seagull. So
yeah, I mean, I started off saying give the people what they want, and then I kind of went there. No.
Yeah, it's like Stellar's J. Let's just change the spelling right away, right?
Yeah,
so it's like the Stellar J with an A rather than an E.
That's one of the most frequent errors that I see is people all spell it with an A. Yeah. Because it is a stellar bird.
It is.
There we go. Give people what they want.
Nice.
I like that
That's
article.
Cool.
For the content of the magazine, are the columns staying mostly the same as they were before? Are you absorbing any of the Watching Backyard Birds content into upcoming BWD issues?
We have really kept a lot of the columnists, most of them, and that's been really wonderful to have them all say, "Yeah, I'm in," and that's wonderful. And I was never really involved in coming up with the articles. That was always our wonderful editor, Dawn Hewitt, was somehow magically coming up with all this content for each issue. And basically what I think she was doing in large part is winnowing through the stuff that was sent in to us, just unsolicited. And that would pile up literally in bins. And she would have these, days at a time where she would just go through them and pull out what was suitable for publication. We're hoping to go a little bit more in the direction of assigning and of seeking out writers that we know are competent and can do a great job and saying, hey, how about you attack this issue? So it's a whole different kind of way to look at it. Rather than sort of relying on stuff falling on us from above, we're going to try and root it out ourselves. As far as the content for Watching Backyard Birds, much of that was repurposed. Much of that was recycled. And so we're not really using content from there. That was something that was a subsidiary publication. It was put out in the months that Birdwatchers Digest was being a bi-monthly was not produced. So I think that we do we're going to have a strong backyard section in the magazine. So I think that's where that content will come in.
Nice.
I want to point out, we'll put this in the notes, but it's bwdmagazine.com, and you can subscribe either print or digital. So you can, if you think you have too much paper in the house, you can get the digital version, which I'm sure is going to look great on the screen as well. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think if you go to birdwatchersdigest.com, it will automatically redirect you to the new website. One thing that Jessica especially was adamant about was that we not lose the insanely good library of articles, PDFs, tips, backyard stuff, ID stuff that lived on the birdwatchersdigest.com website. So we're slowly migrating that to bwd.com. We're cleaning it up, we're representing it, and it will remain the amazingly valuable resource that it has always been.
No, that's great, because there was an ocean of material there, and it'd be a sizable task to just get even a chunk of it over. But that's great to hear that a big bunch will be maintained. That's
in
fantastic.
The tens of thousands of articles, and I mean it's a huge archive, and a valuable one. I think a lot of people use it. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. No, that's great. I can't wait to see the first issue, and am really, really excited to see the new format as well. And it's going to be really cool. So you guys got a great team, and you were talking about Dawn, mentioned Dawn Hewitt and how she is so good at rooting out stuff and good material. And it just reminded me of one of the birding events we worked on together. I can't remember which one it was, but she kept being like, all right, George, let's go. Come on, let's get moving here. We got to get going. There's like stuff to do here. And so I started calling her Hustlin' Hewitt, which Jessica really liked. And I started calling her Hustlin' Hewitt. I was like, all right, Hustlin' Hewitt wants us to go. We better get moving. So yeah.
Yeah, she is a powerhouse of positivity, just such a lovely person. And she's also an advising editor for the publication. She didn't let any grass grow under her feet when BWD folded. She had immediately 3 other job offers. So off she went.
Always hustling. Always hustling.
Yes, yes. I should also say that if your subscription to Birdwatchers Digest was active when the magazine folded in December 2021, we will honor that for up to 6 issues. So all you have to do is go to bwdmagazine.com to check the status of your current subscription, see how many issues you are owed. And you should automatically receive one in July, August, and you'll be off and running.
No, that's great. That's super.
Yeah, it's super. I mean, I'm sure with the quality of what you're doing, I just imagine that you'll have no problem also getting, the top of the line advertisers going in there and, showing their wares. So, hint, hint, advertisers.
Yes, we definitely need those plugs. We need ads. And it was interesting, soliciting ads for this first issue, because it was kind of like, wait a minute, I thought you folded, So it's kind of like we were just, no, we're not dead yet. So it's been a thing.
Julie, since you've been involved with people who read BWD for a long time, do you think that the readership has changed at all? Like, we often talk on this podcast about how birding has changed, technology and other things, and the ability to do X, Y, Z. What do you think about like BWD as like your clientele? Have they become a different group of people today than they were back 30 years ago, 20 years ago?
I think that part of the evolution of the magazine and the new chapter is that we are actually forcing people to become more computer literate. We actually can't afford to staff people to answer handwritten letters and to take phone calls and process checks, all those things that, I still write checks for everything. I'm certainly in that sort of demographic that says, well, I'd rather send a paper check, that's because I don't trust that auto pay stuff, so I get that. I really, really do. But, if we're going to make a go of this, we've got to streamline so that we don't get bins and bins and bins of paper mail to go through, because we don't have the staff to do that. We are down to a skeleton crew, and we are putting out a magazine, and that's it. We aren't going to be, dealing in a lot of paper. So I think that there is capability out there in a lot of people who say they don't do email or they don't go online. If you want the magazine, you're going to have to. If you want to subscribe, you're going to have to go to this website. And so I would say that we're going to see, Al, what has changed and who is able to change with us. I think that it will be more people than we think will enthusiastically get on board with us in the new streamlined version.
We've kind of discussed that overall, even though it might still be sort of, there's not that many teenage birders and super young birders. The actual average age of the birding community has probably gone down. So we're a slightly younger crowd than 20 years ago and that may mean, people will actually welcome the fact that, sort of what you're doing. Of course, there's always, with everything one does, there's always going to be some people are happy with it and some people are not. But I think, on the whole, I think that the crowd is probably ready, and good luck to you.
Yeah.
We'll be helping and writing and doing whatever we can.
We want to hear from you guys. Please submit. Yeah. If you have an article idea that you'd like to pitch, we'd love to hear from you. And, we were talking about getting some stories, tales from the trail, from guides who have some stories from guiding people in far-flung places. I just love reading stuff like that. And I love listening to stories like that. And I would love to get sort of a more of an international flavor to the magazine. We do a feature called Far Afield, which, may be in the States or it may be elsewhere, but it would be so cool to just kind of keep reminding our readers that there's this whole world of crazy birds like pittas and, Watsons out there that they should be thinking about and maybe going to see.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. One other thing, we're all dog people here on this call. All of us. We all have dogs. And so we, Julie, we follow the exploits of Curtis with not a little interest. And one thing I wanted to ask your advice about, because I see an impending event on my horizon, which is that under our back porch, there is a skunk who likes to make periodic pilgrimages into this hole that he's dug. And he'd been gone since February, hadn't had no sign of him, just returned the other day. And judging from the reckless abandon with which my dog Sully pursues squirrels, I am quite terrified to think what might happen if he and this skunk were to meet up. From what I recall,
this is actually highly predictable.
Yeah. Well, from what I recall, Curtis is rather expert at getting sprayed. 4 times.
I've had him for 3 years, and he has gotten sprayed 4 times.
Wow.
And that is not because he is stupid. He's actually incredibly smart, says his mom. But he is convinced that if he just gets the right grip on a skunk, that it's not going to happen. So he's trying to improve his craft. He's just trying to improve his craft. And but the funny thing that happened with Curtis and skunks is I had this skunk with what I am pretty sure was a broken pelvis show up on the place, could barely walk, just like pathetic. And I, of course, fell in love with it. And I named it Sugar Bean, and I made it a house, which it used. I was going to try to trap it, and I filled a cat carrier with straw, and it went in there and fell asleep with the door open. And I was like, oh, man. So I made it, I took an old mailbox and I filled it with straw. And before long, I was putting dishes of food right in front of its little face and figured out what preference. But the interesting thing is that I had this skunk hating cur right there. And this skunk was right in my yard. And he grasped immediately that while he may go after skunks in the woods, that this was my beloved skunk. So he never got sprayed. He
was like, I'm not going to mess with that skunk because there will be hell to pay.
That skunk. Right, yeah. Right. And I thought naively that would apply to all skunks. It did not. It did not. He went on to get sprayed twice more by other wild skunks. So I can give you my recipe for the hydrogen peroxide.
Okay, that's what I was curious about.
And baking soda paste that you put on.
So the tomato sauce thing.
Tomato juice is no.
That's some BS
we're right
there.
on. When you're frantic, just Google skunk recipe and it will come right up. It's nothing proprietary here. But the thing is to get that oxidizing stuff on them. But if you want to hear me cuss a blue streak, you just watch this dog come walking in with rubbing his face on the grass, and I just, oh man. Because it's literally weeks and months of that smell in your house.
Oh, wow.
Be careful, George.
Yeah. Well, the reason the way I figured out that the skunk was back was because, I get up at all kinds of hours for various reasons, and I forget what I got up for, but I was kind of roaming around the house and I was like, wait a minute. I'm smelling something. And I looked out the window where the old skunk hole was, and I was like, oh man, he redug his hole. And because Sully's got pretty thick fur. He's a golden, and so I feel like it could be a problem, Yeah.
What about relocating the skunk? Any idea of doing that?
Your neighbor.
Yeah.
It's a nice greeting to the neighbors.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. He
I got
already
you something.
started with the bad parking job the first day. So
Yeah.
maybe like
You just
moving
gotta
the
pick
skunk
one,
to that safe
and that's
place.
just where it all goes there.
Oh man, can you imagine? Yeah. Yeah, I parked you in for 3 days back in that snowstorm. And here, by the way, I brought you a skunk here a couple months later. I'm sure. Yeah. Name's George, by the way. Yeah.
Let me know when it happens, George.
Yeah, I will do. Because
Not
I feel like
when.
yeah, exactly. It's an inevitability at this point.
It is.
I think,
It is.
we have all these listeners probably in Africa right now going like, you should, how about spitting cobras? Now we're talking, danger kind of thing, we're worried about skunks. It stinks a little,
Stinks a little.
I was going to say.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I don't have skunks in this yard yet. We've seen them once in 20 years. So,
Wow. Yeah. They're around here.
Yeah.
That's one smell that can wake me up out of a deep sleep. I'm so conditioned to like associating it with trouble that my brain goes, yay, yay, yay. When I
Alarm.
smell it. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Skunks are cool though.
Oh, they're such great animals.
Yeah.
Oh, love them.
Mustelids in general. Yeah.
Yeah. I just got my first skunk skull. I'm really excited about that. It's got a great skull. Got this tubular nose that looks like it belongs on a seal.
All
All
right.
about the nose with those things. They really have the olfactory things going on.
Wow.
You'd think they wouldn't be able to smell after all that, but
Yeah, I know.
Shut off the smell,
Yeah, being a hardest smelling, skunk you'd think that could be a big advantage, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, George, when you smelled the skunk the other day, were you like, "Oh wow, COVID is done"?
Yeah.
The smell.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, wait a minute, I'm healthy again. Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Well, we're coming up on our hour here, guys. Before we scoot, yeah. I mean, we're moving and shaking here. Hustle and Dawn would be proud of us. I did want to ask Julie, what projects you got coming up? I know one thing we wanted to touch on too was your COVID project that I know you've been working on. Maybe tell folks about that.
I really value, having to stay home and focus on making this a better place. And I know that the whole plague thing has completely changed my life, and I'm probably not going to be able to clearly see in the ways this has happened for a while. But one thing I do know is that I really bore down on, if I got to stay here, I'm going to make this the greatest place possible, the most fabulous place to quarantine. So I started working on, in midsummer last 2021, on inventing the perfect bird bath, because nothing on the market was what I wanted. And I had this beautiful product called the Magnificent Bird Spa with an 8-gallon reservoir and a big dish and a bubbler in the middle that kind of, recirculated this 8 gallons of water. And that was produced years and years ago by a couple, lovely people. The husband died suddenly. The wife couldn't quite, handle continuing the production of the thing. So it went out of production, and I still get, emails from people saying, "Where did you get that fabulous bird bath?" I wanted to create something like that, but something much simpler that anybody could make. And so I invented this thing that I call the Warbler Fall, like a waterfall, but with warblers. And it is a bird bath that brings in forest birds like tanagers, warblers. Even I've had a ruby-crowned kinglet bathe in it, which is kind of crazy. My bath list for the spa and everything is now in around 74 species of birds that have actually bathed in it over the years I've had it. But this thing is really coming up on it because it appeals to smaller birds. And so what I did was I made this thing, and I kept perfecting it and changing the components and the configuration. And I didn't post about it anywhere. I didn't say a word about it because I kind of had a feeling that it was big. And when I finally did write it up, I started to write this article for BWD on how to build it and how to make it. And I stopped myself. I said, no, it's this is too good. So what I wound up doing was my first instructional video. It's a 17-minute video where I just go into the whole philosophy of this bird bath, why it works so well, why it draws birds out of the woods like iron filings to a magnet. And I made a 2-minute promotional video, which is actually hilarious because I sound like Bobby Flay. I'm like trying to work all this stuff in, and I'm talking really fast. I probably practiced it 20 times before I had to pitch down to 2 minutes. Then I hired a designer to make me a 1-page website. And that's what I'm launching that in the new issue of Birdwatchers Digest, the Warbler Fall. And
okay,
cool.
Yeah. And so I've had a couple test market events that have gone really, really well. People love it once they get the plans and the PDF that explains what components you need. And I'm just really excited about it because I've never done anything remotely like that before. Kind of monetizing my experience and monetizing my understanding of birds and their psychology. And most of all, helping people create this little amazing bird bath for under $60. So yeah, I'm really excited about it.
You'll have to do like the ad, like, it's like, how much would you pay for this, Warbler Fall? $19.99, $29.99. But wait, there's more. And then you offer them some other things.
Serious. If you go to warblerfall.com, you will hear that. You will hear that side of me. I think I start out by saying, "Is your bird bath busy hopping with birds? No, I can help. I'm Julie Zickefoose." It's very funny, and I can't listen to it without laughing because it's so not me. But it works.
Nice.
Well, there is this, I don't know, like this discomfort in a lot of us who have been drawn to birds as a passion. Then it becomes kind of your work, and you sort of have to promote. And then it's weird often, but there's having a little discomfort with promotions probably actually fine. And yet we also want people to know this stuff we've learned over time, whether it's something, that's actually a product or actually just an article with information. It's the thing we do. But I can feel what you're saying when you're sort of doing. I want to see this video now. We're gonna put it on her. Yeah.
You definitely need to see it. So warblerfall.com, you'll get the whole enchilada, the sales pitch, the little buttons you can press. Yes, I want to buy a Warbler Fall, So and just to be clear, I'm not selling the actual product. I have done enough fulfillment to know that I don't want to pack bird baths and send them off and, trek to the UPS office 30 minutes away to take a batch. So I'm selling the plans, the video that shows you how and the plans. And that seems to be a really comfortable spot for me because, my work is all done in the R&D and in the creating the website. And now I kind of get to sit back and watch people bite. It's really fun. It's like fishing.
It really is.
Not fishing with a PH, but fishing like with an F.
Yeah. Yeah, we are in the market for a water feature here, so I will be keeping a close eye on that.
Cool.
That sounds fantastic, especially if you got that's a heck of a lot of birds coming. So that's fantastic. Julie, other ways folks can connect with you or upcoming things you've got that you want folks to know about?
Still not giving a lot of live talks, doing some live talks in the area, but I'm playing it pretty cool as far as traveling and festivals and things like that. But I post daily on Instagram under my own name, and I'm on Facebook, although I'm at my friend limit, so I'm unfortunately having to ignore a lot of friend requests until they change the ceiling again. But yeah, I'd say Instagram is a great way to connect. I'm going to hopefully get my writing cranked back up and push another book out here before too awful long.
Sure hope so. Cool. Excellent. Well, thank you a ton, Julie, for doing this. When we started this, we knew you were a person we absolutely wanted to get on the show. So thanks so much for being part of Lifeless today.
Thank you so much. This has been such fun to see you guys and to yak again. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. It's awesome.
Well, thanks for listening, everybody. And we will be back again soon. Thanks to my co-hosts. Thanks to Koa Sport Optics. Thanks for listening. And we'll talk again soon.